A researcher sues the DEA over marijuana rescheduling process, you guys. That's right. A researcher has filed a lawsuit against the Drug Enforcement Administration, better known as the DEA, accusing the agency of multiple legal violations in its process of marijuana rescheduling. That's right. David Heldreth, a researcher and CEO of psychedelic research and development company Panacea Plant Sciences, filed a complaint last week in the U.S. District Court of Western Washington against the Department of Justice. Attorney General Merrick Garland, the DEA, its administrator Annie Milligram, and DEA Judge John J. Mulrooney II. Hildreth alleges multiple violations in the DEA's recent marijuana scheduling process and seeks injunctive and declaratory relief. The process to reschedule marijuana under the Controlled Substances Act began back in 2022 when President Sleepy Joe Biden directed federal agencies to reconsider marijuana's declassification. Marijuana is currently classified as a Schedule I drug, indicating no accepted medical use and high abuse potential. And rescheduling it to Schedule III would recognize its medical uses and lower abuse potential, similar to drugs like ketamine and anabolic steroids, which have moderate to low dependence risks. This change would also remove marijuana from Section 280E of the Internal Revenue Code, which currently prohibits businesses involved in the cultivation, production, or sale of Schedule I drugs from deducting operational expenses for tax purposes. That's what everyone's all excited about. In April of 2024, the DEA agreed with the Department of Health and Human Services recommendation to move marijuana from a Schedule I to a Schedule III, easing restrictions on the marijuana industry. Following this, the DEA opened a 62-day public comment period, which closed on July 22nd, and received around 43,000 comments from diverse stakeholders, including cannabis advocates, medical professionals, and law enforcement officials. Despite requesting to participate, Panacea Plant Science was not included in the final list of 25 participants selected by DEA Administrator Annie Milligram. In this context, Heldreth accuses the DEA of ignoring Native American tribes, sidelining small businesses, blocking his company's participation in key hearings, and using unconstitutional practices in its rulemaking process. In the complaint, Heldreth argues the DEA refused to consult tribes on its decision to reschedule marijuana when rescheduling to Schedule III and would directly impact tribal law enforcement and health services, thus placing a burden on the tribal government for which there is no supporting federal funding. Interesting argument. Also, Heldreth says that the DEA's rulemaking harms small cannabis businesses, including Panacea Plant Sciences, where he is the CEO, and claims the DEA's approach favors larger entities with Schedule III licenses, leaving small businesses with no opportunity to engage in the rulemaking process. Furthermore, Heldreth says that the DEA excluded him and his company from a scheduled hearing on marijuana despite submitting a timely request. He views this exclusion as punitive, claiming the DEA Administrator Annie Milligram's decision was based and aimed at sidelining critics. And lastly, you guys, Heldreth challenges the constitutionality of the DEA's administrative law judges, arguing their appointment by the DEA administrator violates Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution. In light of these claims, Heldreth seeks injunctive relief to stop the DEA's marijuana rulemaking and pause the ALJ hearings until issues with tribal and small business consultations, participant selection, and ALJ appointments are resolved. Marijuana reforms come amid a transition period following President-elect Donald J. Trump's victory over Vice President Kamala Harris in November's election. And during his campaign, Trump expressed support for reclassifying marijuana under federal law and enabling regulated cannabis companies to access traditional banking services. He also backed state efforts to legalize adult-use marijuana, including a measure in Florida, his adopted home state. And however, the ballot measure did not pass, you guys. Of course it didn't pass. And after the DEA hearing, the presiding administrative law judge will file a report on the testimony, which the DEA must review before issuing its final rulemaking. And this final rule must consider all relevant materials from the public comment period, and the DEA must also address significant issues raised in the comments and provide reasoned explanations for its decisions. Once this is complete, the final rulemaking will be published in the Federal Register, which officially changes marijuana rescheduling under the Controlled Substances Act. Well, there you go, guys. There's the whole process, and a big old fat lawsuit just to go in the mix with all of that, with all of your extra cream and cheese. And I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Typical case of the golden rule, right? Whoever has the gold rules.
Make the rules.
That's what it seems like.
Well, it sounds like he's saying that they discriminated against Native American tribes and tried to prohibit them from participating in the process, Todd.
That's right, because they don't have the money. The other guys have all the money, right?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of this could be from Project Sam.
Though?
I think a lot of it.
Americans?
Native Americans, are they Americans? Of course they are.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Why wouldn't they be?
I don't know. Their skin's a little.
They are when it's convenient for them to be, right? Jason?
Stop the cap. You guys are ridiculous. You guys are trying to gaslight people right now. That's
Shout
not polite.
out Panacea Plant Sciences. They've been doing a lot of work. David Eldred has been on the forefront of this communication, for the last few years, and I would say arguably, he's one of the more analytical researchers out there that's actually putting forth his best effort. A lot of his documentation is what we're reading out here. It's the real science. It's a real outlook on how to do things properly. I think it's great that he's slowing the process down. I think that's what has to happen. I think the speed is what makes the mistakes and where we fumble the ball per se. So good on him. And it's the government. You're dealing with one of the most corrupt organizations out there. So good luck. Anything that's put forward by, our government regarding cannabis or psychedelics, lysergamides or tryptamines that are being created every day out there. There's an argument to be made that our society is going to benefit so greatly from these things that's why they want to keep it out of everyone's hands. And I hope that there's a resolution. But yeah, if we have rescheduling, if we have some decision made, it's going to be hard to walk that back. So the postponement of that decision is really the key.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I just want to add to that, which is it's tricky, right? On the one hand, they're saying you guys didn't include the tribes in these conversations. On the other hand, if tribes are truly sovereign nations, there are probably no other sovereign nations that have been included in this internal deliberation. So there's that. Then the other part of it is he says, look, we asked to be included and we weren't, and that's not really cool. But at the same time, he's challenging the constitutionality of the DEA's administrative law judges, saying that doesn't really work according to the U.S. Constitution. So it's a little bit.
You're saying he has too many conflating arguments, is what you're saying.
I'm saying there's a lot of internal conflict in the way that I think this is being approached, because you don't get to, in my mind, you don't get to make these arguments of I wasn't included, but you shouldn't even be doing that. And by the way, you didn't consult the tribes, but don't forget we are in fact sovereign and truly independent nations. So and I think this is a little bit of a dangerous game, in so much if you argue that those administrative law judges don't have the authority to do what they're doing, and the person you're arguing it in front of agrees with you, then did you slow down the process to get it right, or did you just strip the whole thing apart and now we're back at square whatever? So I hope this is an effective approach. I'm not a lawyer. Don't play one on TV, but I'm not so sure.
It sounds like his non-inclusion just added salt to the other wounds. So what else can I go after, right? And he did his research on, maybe it's unconstitutional, maybe it's this, maybe it's right. And it was the non-inclusion that forced him into those tactics.
Better than collusion, Todd.
Yeah, it is.
No, yes. And, did any of us think that somebody with the last name Milligram who ran an anti-drug agency was going to get this right? No, we don't. We just want to see this thing get moved forward, right? If she was named Kilogram, I'd have big expectations for her. But
that's her middle name. That's her middle name.
It stands for ain't gonna do shit.
Annie Kilo Milligram. On
the triple beam of life, she's not at the side that I want to be on.
Did there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm going to weigh in on this.
Annie Killy Millie.
Oh, a milli.
Milligram. I feel like that guy. What?
Oh,
$10.
Achille.
Oh man, you guys are funny.
But
No heels.
and I agree that we have to get this right, but I also agree that they have been kicking this can down the road in a way that feels to me a bit more political than policy.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it all more political than policy? I mean, all of it, every time the policy is made.
That's the problem.
What do you mean, Tom?
Right,
What's the matter with that?
No, that's the complaint, right?
Why is that a complaint?
When
You got to do business with the government, and they don't know
right,
what the fuck they're doing.
when conflicts merge.
But everybody wants government money.
Well, listen, Jason. When conflicts merge, what's good for the people gets swept right under the rug.
Well,
So
that's what's good for some people, not good for all people.
No. If you think the cannabis isn't good for all people, then you're tripping.
Man, some people are allergic to it, Simon. Some people, it's not good for them.
They're
Yeah,
just-
what about CHS?
Yo, I'm allergic to the discount store. I'm allergic to the dollar store for cannabis.
Listen, on that, Rico, we're going to actually have some more info on that. So a lot of the important research that's being done now is pointing to, mycotoxins, aflatoxins in the cannabis that's creating the cannabis hypermesis syndrome. So that's actually not an allergy to weed. That's actually a microbe or a bacteria in the weed that is growing that's causing that. So there's going to be a lot more research on that. We will definitely cover that in the coming weeks on this.
There's
man.
very little failure in cannabis weed due to mycotoxins and aflatoxins.
Yeah, there's no failure exactly, but it's causing a lot of the problems, right? So you're not.
Oh, there's a presence of, it's a pass
Yeah.
or fail. So
Right.
so you're
It's
saying-
exactly. Quantification is not, it's happening. But if we're able to track and actually identify those microbes that are causing that, the bacteria that's causing it, that's an interesting step into understanding, physiology as it relates to cannabis and why some people have those genes that cause cannabis hypermesis and some don't. Is it the weed that isn't? And that's kind of the thing. Maybe it's certain SOP, maybe it's just biology, and we'll see.
Jenny, do you have anything to throw in on this, Jenny? Are you with us?
Jenny here?
Is she there?
I don't know if she's here.
Oh, man. Maybe she...
Japanese Levi's are the only jeans that matter in my house.
Fair
Wait,
enough.
Levi's are from San
They
Francisco.
fit differently?
They definitely
Dude,
they fit
The
differently.
stitching is way tighter, dude. Yeah, you gotta, you know.
What?
I don't
Levi's
know.
are from San Francisco.
I have Levi's on right now. And I don't know if they're
Get
Japanese.
yourself some Japanese, the Japanese imported Levi's, man. Watch, look it up.
Interesting.
Look it up. Japanese denim is the best.
Just before the
world.
tariffs are
Will it bring sexy back?
Sexy been back in this household, baby boy.
With the DeBarge curl, I better Google Japanese Levi's right now.
right now.
Japanese.
You and Rico
Hey,
are-
speaking of, do you know the material that the Mario Brothers overalls is made out of?
No.
Denim.
Oh, boy.
What you did there.
Oh, boy.
It's a little early for fabric jokes, but I'm trying my best to play along.